Greetings, fellow insomniacs. It's your friend in fright, Chunky Larry, from the Ghoul Kids Table podcast. Now, last week, we were having a conversation that we did not get to the end of. And some of you might have been left with your cocks in your hands, just like, what the fuck, dude? I wasn't done. I wasn't finished. I wanted to hear about Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I wanted to hear about fucking sorority babes in the slime ball bolorama. I wanted to hear about Night Trap. I wanted to hear about his fucking music. Well, got some good news for you. A couple of different bits of good news. First of all, it's Christmas, so I gotta enjoy my nog. There's brandy in there. Don't worry about that. But the entirety of the conversation is available where you listen to podcasts. Then this is the second half of the conversation in video form. So in the first part of the conversation, we got a little deep into synchronicity and Radio 8 Ball and a lot of the stuff that is what Andras is. But we didn't really get into, the things that I think a lot of people that aren't named Chunky Larry would be more excited to hear about, and that's his work in film, his work in music, and that is what this second half of the conversation is going to be. We talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 4. We talk about Night Trap. We talk about sorority babes at the slime ball bolorama, and we talk about his music career. This is honestly one of the coolest fucking conversations that I've ever gotten to have in my history of doing interviews across the board. Andras is a really fucking cool dude. I feel like we had a really good conversation, and this second half is no less good. This is the stuff that dreams are made of. And speaking of stuff that dreams are made of, I got a little present, a little Christmas present from the team at Fredheads. Now, Fredheads is a documentary about fans of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. It's about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but more importantly, it's about the life's blood of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, the fans, the people that went to the video store and obsessively consumed these films, very much like I did, and we talked about in this first edition of the conversation. I just want to show you something really cool that came in this box. And the documentary Fredheads is going to be available for you to enjoy on DVD and Blu-ray February 14th. That's a cheap plug. But, I'm a cheap whore. And if anybody else wants to whore me out, this is the way you do it. Is that not the coolest fucking thing you've ever seen? It's a light up fucking VHS for Fredheads. I want to put this in a VCR and watch it, but I think that it would break my VCR, and they aren't just like easy to come by anymore. But without any further ado, enough of me showing off my shit, and we're gonna get right into it. Here is the rest of my conversation with Andras Jones, already in progress. And once again, Fredheads the documentary, February 14th, 2023, Valentine's Day. Cuddle up with the person that you love this Valentine's Day with some love, all things horror. Until then, I'm Chunky Larry. Off to you, Chunky Larry. I want to kind of circle back to the beginning of acting for you. And it all kind of, you always hear overnight success that took 10 years. Was that the case for you, or was it something that...
No. Mine was really over. I mean, I wouldn't say it was, first of all, I wouldn't classify anything I've done career-wise as a success, but I had my most successful year in the entertainment business, 1988, 2 years after I graduated from high school. I moved out to LA, didn't know anybody. I had one phone number of a guy. I had a friend who was living with some people. He said I could crash there. And I had a number of a guy who I had interviewed for my school paper who wrote the movie The Sure Thing, the Rob Reiner film that I guess sort of made John Cusack a star. And through that connection, I met a manager who started sending me out for roles. And I had acted a lot in high school. And as you said, I grew up in a family where I had to hone a lot of the skills that are good for acting to keep up. Just being able to think and talk and communicate in a way that was compelling enough to stand out at a table full of people who were my intellectual superiors by leaps and bounds. And so I just, I started auditioning for stuff and I started getting stuff, and it all started to happen very fast. And I didn't recognize how unique that was at the time. So I guess for me, it wasn't that it all happened overnight. I worked forever and it happened overnight. It's that it happened overnight. I didn't recognize it. I made choices that I thought were integrity choices, and maybe they were integrity choices that ended that. And then I've had to work a long time in my life to, I don't know, make sense of having that moment of visibility that is still connecting me to you.
Yeah.
So I've basically lived my life as someone who is kind of famous in some circumstances. And I'll be honest, this is pleasant, but it doesn't always lead to pleasant interactions. I have a lot of people who, for years I worked as a bartender, and anytime I'd work at the bar, anytime someone at the bar would find out that I was in Saved by the Bell, or I was in Nightmare on Elm Street, or I was in these things, or Good Morning Miss Bliss, actually, not Saved by the Bell. They would come in and they'd be like, "Oh, hey Andras, what's this? I didn't know you were in this. Oh, that's crazy." And that's and I'm like, cool. Yeah, okay, well, let's get back to work.
Yeah,
It
I gotta
doesn't
go
take
take
long.
the trash out. Do you want?
Yeah, it doesn't take long. For 2 weeks later, people are like, "Oh, Mr. Movie Star thinks he's all that," and it's like, no, I didn't bring it up. I don't think it's all that. You think it's all that.
Yeah.
And it's a short hop from, "Oh, Mr. Movie Star thinks he's all that," to, "Oh, he has an attitude, you're fired." So, or people, men and women, having a strong reaction to that character, feeling that strong sort of affinity of they have with a real movie star with me, but I'm there, I have no protection.
Yeah.
And the jump from, "I think you're cool," to, "Why don't you like me more?" "Oh, you don't want to go out with me? What's the problem? You think you're such a movie star?" I'm like, "No, I just don't want to go out with you. We're working together."
Yeah.
But so it has led to a really weird life and a weird weird relationship with, uh, again, fame is not the right word. The way I always joke with Dan Hassel from Nightmare 4, when we go to cons, it's like people will be at the con, will be in Florida, be like, "Hey, we're going to go to Epcot Center." And I was like, why would you leave this in this hotel? We're movie stars.
Yeah.
Why would you want to go? As soon as you leave this hotel, you go back to being just what you are, but in this place, you're in a place where if you make 5 minutes for someone, you can make their fucking year. Why would you want to leave? But in that little pool, we're famous. In the rest of the world, we're not. And then when we meet someone who thinks we are, it's a little bit odd because we're just on a train together.
Yeah.
And I'm on my way to my bartending job.
Yeah.
Or to go make my record that I don't think anyone's going to listen to, or to go, I don't live in my life as if I'm famous. And at the same time, having had that one little taste of it, a little bit of fame can be a dangerous thing.
So talk to me about that year? Because it's you shot most of the stuff in '87, and then '88 was just like blow away year for you.
No, no. Nightmare 4 was shot in the spring and the spring of 88, and it came out in the summer of 88. It came out fast. It was crazy how fast we made and got that film out because it was people were hungry.
And
After
it's
Nightmare 3, people were
exactly.
hungry for 4.
And I feel like there's this contingent of people that think three being, the film that kind of started that relationship with MTV, that's the MTV movie. And I would say it's the exact opposite, that four is the MTV movie. Four is the point where three opens the door, four kind of kicked it in, and that's where the push of marketing and everything, toys and lunchboxes and all of this stuff really started up, was at that point. And it being as big as it is, you being relatively new, 2 years out of high school, uh are you like, holy shit, man, what the hell is going on?
I got to be honest, in my world, it wasn't. No one in my family watches horror films.
Mm,
In Hollywood, even though it was huge and it probably helped Rennie Harlan's career, it for as an actor, I didn't have the sense that people were treating me like I was in the biggest movie in the world. They were treating Bruce Willis like he was in the biggest movie in the world. They were
mm.
treating Michael J. Fox like he was in the biggest movie in the world because they were. Um, but there was a shift. I got hired to do Far From Home, the film I did after Nightmare on Elm Street. Right out of that,
Mm.
there was what they call a roll happening. Things were starting to happen. And I was in a band at the time, and it was conflicting with my acting was conflicting with the band, and that created some
They were calling you
some
big movie
tension.
star.
No, 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 no. It's just they didn't want me to. I had to go out of town a lot to
Uh-huh.
work, and so it put everything on hold for the rest of the guys, which I could understand being uh, frustrating. So, yeah.
So, uh the cast the cast to me, to this day, has a very familial bond. You see it everywhere on social media, and I'm sure that a lot of that has to do with conventions and constantly being around each other because they all kind of get booked at the same shows. Uh, but was it always like that for you? In terms of, I mean, I know that you had dated Tuesday Night, uh, but like when you're working on that film, does it feel like you guys are creating a family? Because that is one of the things that rings the most true for me watching the film, is that it feels more so than a lot of other films that I've seen, like there's this natural chemistry amongst the people that are there. And I don't know if that's because of a bond or just the quality of actors.
Uh, might be synchronicity. Like there's a few things about that. Um, First of all, we were all pretty young. And I can only speak for myself, but I was just in a time of life where I was gathering tribes or gathering groups of people, we're being creative and working together, whether it was an acting class or in a band or in a movie with a bunch of other young people. That you just felt like you were together doing stuff. Uh, no phones to distract us and have us look down. We were
Yeah.
looking at each other, and we needed each other to entertain each other. Um, but I would also say that a big part of that, I think a big part of that feeling also came from the cons. Robert Englund built con culture in the way, like he was and remains the defining star that that is at the center of horror convention culture. I mean, you could say Jason or Michael Myers, but they're guys in masks.
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger is Robert Englund, and cons in they didn't exist when Nightmare on Elm Street 4 came out. They didn't start to exist until about 10 years later when I was touring with my band, and it was like, oh, you're invited to go sign autographs at a convention center in Pittsburgh, and that will help fund another 2 weeks of touring and hotel rooms and stuff. Yes. Uh, and then you'd get there and your other friends from 10 years ago, and then 20 years ago, and then 30 years ago are there. And you're not just people who aren't working in films. All of a sudden you're together and you're stars, and people like, and that there's that experience, which is powerful. And then you see them again next year, and then you see them again the year after. And it's like, it is family, because just like family, you didn't choose them, and you're going to see them every year. If you're fighting, sorry, you're going to both get invited to Kansas City next April. So
Has there ever been one of
you're going to
those
have to work.
situations with you?
Oh yeah, we've been like
Yeah.
everyone. We've been in relationships with each other. We've been in business partnerships with each other. We've pissed each other off. We have held each other up. Yeah, all of it, all of it. And so uh, for us in the Nightmare family, and particularly the Nightmare 4 group, it has always felt that way, and we're constantly having people tell us that it's unique, and I'm surprised at that. I don't know. I guess the people in other franchises must be busier and more fulfilled, I guess, because we who are in Nightmare 4, all we kind of have is each other,
Yeah.
and Robert as like uh I wouldn't say a father figure, but in a way, yeah, he is the patriarch of our family, and he plays a fatherly role. When Robert says something nice to or about me, I get the kind of feeling that I feel like I might get from my father's passed away, but like that I would feel when if my father sort of put his arm around me and said, "Good job, kid," you know.
Get a
Um,
good attaboy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it means a lot. It
Yeah.
means, and not because he's famous. I don't care that he's famous. I don't care that he's Freddy Krueger. That's what he is for all these other people. For
Yeah.
me, he's the older actor who told me great stories on the set of that film in 1988, and has been the father of his brats consistently over all these years. And yeah, so really, you know, so yeah, that's why it has there's a familial thing to it. But I don't think at the time we were making that, I think all of us thought, what's the John Lennon line, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Hmm.
That totally Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I think we all thought we were on our way to other better things. I don't think any of us, maybe Tuesday, had a sense of what the film meant culturally, or in her career. But I think the rest of us were just happily moving on to bigger and better things, and have come to realize that this is the project that is going to define our lives.
And are you able to make peace with that? Because
Yeah.
you are a creative. Like that is what you do. Everything about you is wanting to make something and wanting to create more than just, hey, I was the guy in Nightmare 4. And is it like a burden at times for you?
No, no, I wouldn't say that. There are times when it makes things more complicated, and I will say this, that having achieved whatever kind of success that film afforded me in 1988 gave me a sense that I think maybe other people don't have, that I'm good enough to be in a movie.
Yeah.
I'm good. There's something about me that's valuable enough to exist in the entertainment world, whether or not anyone else agrees, because I had it and I was there and I did it. And so in some ways there is the burden that no matter how much I've tried to have like just a normal working class job or do other things, there's always this little thing of like, but if you went there, if you went to Hollywood and did it again, you could do it again. You are, whereas to someone else that might be like, well, I think I'm good enough to do it, but I don't know. I think I could be in films, but what do I know? Everyone thinks that, but I was, and it happened so fast and so easily that it's like, I guess I came away with a little bit of earned arrogance of like I am a professional actor. I am a movie actor. Which I don't know if that's a burden to me or a burden to others. It's not, oh, look who thinks he's a movie star. But there is a little bit about that. There is a little bit like, you're like, people are impressed. People who haven't done it are more impressed with the thing than people who have done it. If I met someone who played Major League Baseball for 1 year, I would be like, oh my God, dude, you were on the fucking New York Mets. I can't believe it. He'd be like, yeah, 1 year in the bigs, nothing. It's nothing. But at the same time, he knows, but I did hit in Yankee Stadium. Yeah. I know the Mets don't play in Yankee Stadium, but they're interleague games, is what I'm saying. But yeah, if you've done it, you're not as impressed as the people who have. And there's a kind of power that gives you within that field. Like that guy can go to a Hall of Fame luncheon and know he belongs there. And I can, if I find myself sitting on a plane next to Tom Hanks, I'm not impressed with the fact that he's a movie star. It's cool to be sitting next to Tom Hanks, but we both do the same thing. He does it better, more successfully, blah, but I am enough in the club that I don't wilt when I stand next to Jack Nicholson. That's cool to meet Jack Nicholson, but I meet him as someone who does this. And when you meet someone like that, they respond to you like that. They're not like, oh, who do you think you are? They're like, thank God I'm meeting someone else who's a professional.
Yeah. And so there's two movies. Oh, well, one's a movie, one's a video game, but I want to talk about both.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Night Watch first. Night Trap.
Night Trap. Sorry.
Night Trap.
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen?
Synchronicity again. That was one of my first things that I like. That was after Sorority Babes and the Slime Ball Bolorama. And I remember there were tons of auditions for it. And when we got it, we had to sign a non-disclosure agreement because it was new technology. It was the first interactive video game. And they really hadn't figured it out. Basically, we shot it in 1987. It didn't come out till like maybe 1990.
92, I believe.
92. Yeah.
Sarah's coming in with 6 more tonight.
6? Yep.
The problem is Sheila and I might have to make a delivery.
That's no problem. Tony and I can handle it.
I'm not so sure.
These have to go too.
Whoa. What's this? This is special vintage.
Oh, Jeffrey, don't be so selfish. Think of the poor, starving augurs.
Those animals.
They're here.
Good. Come down.
What's the matter with you, anyway?
I don't know. Bored, I guess.
Bored. Well, that's gonna change pretty soon, huh? I mean, we're on our own tonight.
So?
So? You heard him. We got 6. That's gotta be some kind of record.
Yeah, well, I don't think you understand, Jeff. I'm not interested in that stuff anymore.
It didn't come come out. That's all those years, and people in my family be like, "What's up with that project? We can't talk about. I can't talk about it."
Okay, talk
And
about
then the first I heard about it being out, I'm driving in my car, and NPR is doing a story about congressional hearings about dangerous video games, and they say Night Trap, and I'm like, "What? This is how this film comes out." And it's gone on to be like so many of the things I've done. It is generally recognized as being bad. It is also generally recognized. It also has a sort of cult popularity, like
Yeah.
people who love it. And it has some weird tangential cultural importance that the makers could never have intended. So, whether it's like Attic Expeditions, Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama, Night Trap, even Nightmare on Elm Street 4. People who are cinephiles generally think that 1 and 3 are, and I agree with them. I'm a cinephile. That 1 and 3 are the great ones. 2 is actually kind of groundbreaking in how it was unpopular and has come around as being this sort of queer positive thing that Mark Patton has been able to make it into. And 4 is like the first genuinely cheesy one, in the sense of like, it's the MTV one, it's the video one, it's pop, it's like it's pure popular candy. And it's not to take anything away from it, but just like there is this
I disagree.
And again, it also has this deep soulfulness to it, which we could get into.
I'm not even just that. I think from a style position in terms of filmmaking, it's one of the more stylish, like visually striking of the films. There's a lot about that movie that they did visual things inside of that film that none of the other films did, and it stands on its own. I think that the look of Freddy in that film is probably one of his best looks, and I thought that it has easily the best final girl in all of the films, and that's it's
Shout out to Lisa Wilcox.
I love all of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, but I hear that argument all the time about how visually it's not on, or how it's not on par with 1 and 3. And I disagree, like in a big way. But I'm sorry.
No.
I can't have you talking about my girl.
Here's the thing. This is probably true for most actors, whether or not they'll admit it. But I can't see a movie that I'm in. I just can't see. Like, I wish I could. I'd like to. I was recently on an episode of a podcast called The Projection Booth, a really great movie podcast with a guy named Mike White. He did an episode about Far From Home, and the film I did with Drew Barrymore. And I was really happy to be on that call. And I told him that, it's like, I think this movie might be good, but I can't tell. I could never, like, because it's like watching home movies. Even if I can get past being judgmental about my performance, it all looks. When I go to a movie, I'm transported into this imaginary world. When I go see a movie that I'm in, it's not an imaginary world. It's a very real
how
world
the hot dogs are
people
made.
And it's just like, it's not even that. It's just like, my experience of it is remembering hanging out with those people. It's remembering flying to that place and driving to that place and sitting around outside of that place, and like, it's just a completely different experience. So that's why I like anything I say about Nightmare 4. Really, I can appreciate Nightmare 3, I can appreciate 1, and I can appreciate 2. I can be grateful for 4, but I can't really appreciate it.
Let's talk about Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama.
Happily.
This is like it's on par in terms of energy with Night of the Demons, in my opinion. they feel like spiritual successors, or like, you know, kissing cousins or something, you know, any kind of adjective you want to use to where they feel familial in the terms of tone and kind of overall energy. Originally, it was titled The Imp, and they thought that that was a terrible title, and they went to create a new title. They asked for suggestions for the title, and I believe that they landed on "Bitchin' Babes at the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama." Is am I right with my history?
I was not part of those conversations. What I know is we shot it entirely as the end. And when we were in ADR looping sessions to pick up some lines, we were there with all. I was there with. I remember. I think all the actresses were there, and probably Hal Havens and John Wildman. And I remember someone came in and was like, "We're changing the movie's name. It's going to be called Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bowl-O-Rama." And I remember one of the funniest things I've ever heard was one of the actresses said, "But now no one is going to take this movie seriously." I was 18, but I knew no one was ever going to take this movie seriously. But I was like, but that's a great title for a movie that no one's going to take seriously, because you have to take that title seriously. Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that I got to, that was Dave Dakota's first film. He has gone on to an incredible legacy.
Huge filmography.
Yeah. Good golly, Miss Molly, that guy. And he really had it all right there from the get-go. There are things that he cares about that most directors don't care about, and there are things that he doesn't care about that most directors should care about. but it doesn't matter. He's an unstoppable cinematic force, and all of those actresses are horror icons, and nobody talks about it. But Hal Havens is he should have been a star. He's
physical comedic
incredibly talented guy. And I got to work with Buck Flower, the great Buck Flower. So that's all on my first film, non-union. Like I was sharing a hotel room with the craft services guy. That's how little of a movie star I was, even though I was the lead of the film with Linnea.
Yeah.
And that film is a film that it's paid off for me in all kinds of ways, none of them financial. But yeah, no, it's an incredibly lucky thing in my life to be connected with that film. And it does, like I said, it creates this odd aesthetic to my filmography of like important trash, maybe is the best way to say it. Like, it's trash, but it is clearly an important film. I was just hanging. My neighbor is Diana Prince, who's Darcy, the mail girl on Job.
Yeah,
and she loves that film. I know all these people who are in the film business, who for them that and Nightmare on Elm Street 4 are really, really important films, which makes me important to them, which is always fun to be with people who see you in a way that is, has a little bit of, I'm glad to be around you because of this. So.
Yeah. So you said it yourself, this was your first time on a set.
No, it was my first first lead. I'd done in high school, I'd done like extra things or like walk-on parts and things that shot in Boston, and I'd done some student films. So I'd been on film before, but that was my first real professional acting gig on film.
And I have to assume that the making of that film was a little unconventional. I just assume, because of...
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if it was unconventional.
Well, when you go
in
on...
retrospect, no. We spent a week and a little bit more, maybe 2 weeks, in a bowling alley in just south of LA. And I think it was,
But like when you're working on Nightmare 4, you're not like, well, why am I not staying with the grip right now?
Well, yeah. Well, I wasn't staying with anyone, and I hadn't that. I think, yeah, that was my first location. Sorority Babes was my first location shoot, and my next one was Far From Home after Nightmare on Elm Street. Everything else was shot in LA, so I was just going home and driving back to the set. So yeah, I mean, it was. It's so funny now. Everything seems all the conventions now seem unconventional. Then we were shooting on film. We had crews that were doing all the things that films do. It was odd staying with the craft services guy, but he was cool. I had easy access to the Cheetos. So.
Can't be bad. Can't be bad. So I want to talk to you about your musical career. Because you have to have like a desire for acting to decide that you're going to go and act. Was music always just kind of like a thing that you wanted to do, but you were like, I think I have more of a chance with acting? Like, how did that work out?
I've always felt like they're similar. They're complementary activities. Acting is representation. It's an expressive art. It's you tell me what to say and I will sing it, or I will bring that to life for someone to look at. Music is more of an internal thing. It's I've never, I want to say, I've never felt like I had to pursue music. I make music, and there are things that I want to do so that people can hear it. But it's not like I would audition. I wasn't out auditioning to be in other people's bands, or even that much desiring to be a star, a rock star, whatever thing people want from musical fame. To me, there's something in my life that I can't reconcile, and something about writing a song allows me to create a little world in which this thing that doesn't make sense can make sense, and then I have this almost like a mantra or something that I've created that allows me to move through whatever the frustrating situation is, and then afterwards I have this cool artifact. And songs are really cool because you can play them with somebody else, and they add a harmony or they add a musical thing to it, and it's sort of like one of those plants that seems like it's dead, but as soon as you add water to it, it just comes alive again. That's how a song is. You could walk away from it for 20 years, come back to that song, it's still right there waiting to be made alive again. And so and when I say I've had bands, I've toured, I've submitted my stuff to festivals, and I've done all of those things, but mostly, I guess the thing is, like, you can make music on your own and nobody has to hear it and it's still good, but you can't act on your own. Like, acting is something you need to be hired to do. Someone has to give you the lines, or you need to create something where you give yourself the lines and do all that. But to me,
you kind of answered a question that I'd asked or wanted to ask. What the difference between, because you had said, it's hard for you to consume your own work in terms of the film, but with music, is it easier or harder for you to consume it? And I feel like you kind of answered that question.
Oh yeah, it's very much, it's much easier I can enjoy my own music in a way I can't with film. And it's not how it looks, how it feels. Music is all about how it feels. Film acting is kind of all about how it looks. And does that look make you feel something? Yes, maybe. We hope. But there is a big difference. And
So like it's
acting
easier for you
necessarily
like
for
listen to Flashback Barbecue as opposed to watching Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama.
yes, and even that's a good example because that's a song that I have. When we finished it, I had some misgivings about, but it's still a much more pleasurable experience for me, going back to that song than it would be to go back to that film. Even
Mm.
though, again, I'm very happy to have been involved in it. It's just there's not a lot of pleasure for me to draw from a viewing of Sorority Babes, unless I'm with a bunch of people, and then it's fun. Like Diana had me on a thing where they were showing, they had some sort of viewing party of Sorority Babes, and I got to be a part of that, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
'Cause,
getting to see people
again,
react to it. It's kind of
yeah,
like
people
performing
asking
again.
questions and be like, "Oh my God, you're that guy! I never knew that was the guy from Nightmare on Elm Street." Like that's acting.
Yeah, I'm a totally different person, Daddy. uh, but to me, because I went and I played through all of your albums that you've graciously offered to the world of SoundCloud, and I'm going to be
Thank
putting a link to that in all of this in the description and everything. Um, you can hear like a maturity happen over the course of those albums. And so like
I
I took specific notes on this exact thing, so just bear with me 1 second. Natalie Wood said,
Yeah.
that feels like a fucking Beatles song, my guy. Where
Well,
like
that's high praise.
Super Lame feels like one of those songs that you would have heard on like alt pop radio station, but Natalie Wood said just feels like a totally different guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I hope that it always sounds like the same. One of the things that I like about artists, I don't, is that the point of view and maybe I don't want to say the voice, not the voice like just my voice, but the writer's voice is consistent, and you can trust that whatever aesthetic it's in.
Uh-huh.
But then, yeah, as a musician, as a songwriter, yeah, you try and go deeper each time, or you get more confident in your abilities to not even have to try and go deeper, to try and just let the song go find its own level without you trying to force it. I think that's probably the main thing when you talk about maturation, is earlier in your writing life, you're trying to establish yourself. And if you have a good point, you really want to make it,
Yeah.
and it just leads to, whether it's acting, whether it's music, whether it's anything, it's forcing it,
Mhm.
forcing the result. Radio 8 Ball taught me a tremendous amount about trusting things to find their own level, to be as passionate as you can be in the making of it, but also be totally detached, be willing to have this not work, or have it, just have it not be what you wanted it to be, but be what it is. So, yeah, by the time we get to Natalie Wood, and I'm working on, that was stuff from 20 years ago. I recorded that. I'm in the middle of recording a bunch of new music, and I wish I could play it I wish it was at that point where I could play it for you, but I will have it available, I hope, by the spring or the summer. It'll start coming out, and that's even more the case now. Like I really do not care about the things that used to distract me and keep me from being able to serve the song or the session or just the moment. And I care deeply about the things that I used to not even think about, like crazy stuff that makes a huge difference. Just like people are gonna be like, you didn't know this? Just how you talk to people,
Uh,
the agreements that you have with the people you play with, how above board you are about the financial aspects of it. things that make people feel safe and of value, and that makes the music you make together have an integrity and a richness that it could never have being played by people who aren't sure if they can trust each other. And of course, we're always testing that trust, but yeah, that's just something. When I was younger, I was just trying to get people to play on my songs for free all the time because I had no money, and I was like, and you had to hustle more, and that you can make good music that way, but I don't think you can make great music that way, or as you would say, mature music that way. So yeah, the music will teach you. It'll break you and put you back together and teach you how to be an integrity person, whether or not you went into it with that intention.
Well, Andras, this has been a fucking dream for me.
Oh.
I really want to thank you for giving me as much time as you've given me. And, I want you to just kind of take a minute or two to point people in the directions that you want them to be pointed into.
Well, basically everything I put it all on a website called Previously Yours. My band, when I was touring, was Mr. Jones and the Previous, and then just the Previous. And so Previously Yours is the website. But if you forget that, you can just find it's also andrasjones.com. We'll send you there. And that's where I have stuff about my films, about my music, about the podcasts that I host. I should mention that I also co-host a podcast called The World Is Wrong, where we celebrate films and film artists the world is wrong about, with my co-host Brian Connolly. And I'm very proud of that. I love talking about movies that people shit on, but that are genuinely great. I think are genuinely.
I really
great.
enjoyed the Deconstructing Harry episode.
Thank you. I was very happy with that. Go to worldiswrongpodcast.com, theworldiswrongpodcast.com, or you can click on the link from my website, and we have a bunch of episodes there. As you said, Radio 8 Ball has a bunch of episodes. And not that we needed to, but you can also, we didn't talk about my book. My book, Accidental Initiations in the Kabbalistic Tree of Olympia, is also something you can find at my website. So yeah, just I would encourage people, if you're interested in finding out about me, to go there and find the thing that suits your taste. And like I said, I have some new music coming out in the coming year that I'm very, very, very excited about. Stuff I've been working on for a long time, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it. So when it comes out, I'll let you know.
Definitely.
And if
you want to come back on, I'll always have you on.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, it'd be great to, when the record's out, to come back and share that music with your.
That would be great.
Yours.
I would also love to play the Radio 8 Ball when we do that. So.
Oh yeah.
We should definitely do that. And I again, just thank you so much for doing this. If you guys are here solely for Andras, which I do not blame you, but you've enjoyed the conversation, you want to learn more about us, you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can start by liking us on Facebook, Ghoul Kids Table, following us on Twitter at Ghoul Kids Table, Instagram GKT Podcast, and TikTok Ghoul_Kids_Table. Thank you again. This is the best thing ever.
So, it's a great title, by the way, Ghoul Kids Table.
Only the Ghoul Kids are allowed at the table, and you are one of the ghoulest. But that is going to do it for us, you guys. So for Andras Jones and for myself, again, my name is Chunky. This has been another episode of the Ghoul Kids Table Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Listen with someone you trust.